How's it going, everybody? And welcome to this next edition of the Stupid Questions podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Jack Stanton-Stock. He is an awesome British guy from across the pond who is a short course professional athlete racing for WTS, but also for Super League Triathlon on a couple of different teams. I believe that he's kind of gotten slots on. You may recognize him from some of the videos that you may have seen in the past year with Lionel Sanders doing arena games type of stuff. Anyway, Jack is just a super awesome guy, 21 years old, has taken some big leaps for the sport and is trying to figure it all out. And it's just so cool to see his story and hear about his life a little bit. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Jack Stanton-Stock. Started. First of all, thank you so much for jumping on and making the time to let me come and just ask you some questions. I assume you probably don't know a whole lot about me, so I think that's a good thing just for the conversation curiosity standpoint.
Yeah.
But the first question I want to start off with is, who is Jack?
Oh, crikey. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on.
Sure.
It's great to be here, sir. Who's Jack? Crikey. Well, probably, I'm 21 right now, so still figuring that out. I am hopefully trying to be a full-time professional triathlete. I'm from the UK. I've been doing triathlon now since, it must have been about 12 or 13, maybe, when I started triathlon. A while now. So you could say I'm a 10-year veteran of the sport almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just kind of gone through the ranks in the UK short course. And yeah, I've competed internationally at European Cups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I went to European Youth Championships, and this past year, I've competed at Super League, which I used to do as like a junior, and now obviously been given the opportunity to compete in the arena games right at the beginning of the year, where I did very well.
Good for you.
And then managed to get a singular spot in Toulouse, competing against some of the big boys of the short course game. And so that's kind of like a quick summary of who I am at the moment.
So unpack for me a little bit, who is Jack outside of triathlon? Because about half of your life you've spent doing this sport now, but the other half I'm really interested to dive into first. Like, where are you from? How was growing up? Who are you outside of the sport?
I've grown up in a town called Saffron Walden.
Okay.
I don't know if they might have heard of the city of Cambridge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just around between there and London. So about northeast London, bit further up. It's quite a sheltered kind of town, very, very nice. I like to say I'm from near Cambridge because it's kind of posh, but I'm technically from Essex.
Okay.
But I don't have an Essex accent. I've got quite a typical British accent, I'd say. Or I've been told. Yeah. Although one or two people in America thought I was Australian. It's the wrong side of the earth.
Yeah.
I've grown up basically loving all sorts of sports. I did pretty much everything under the sun in like primary school, going through to secondary school, stuff like that. One of the main other sports I did, I actually did rugby, surprisingly. I did that to a decent level. I got to kind of like an academy level when I was about 14-ish, I think. And at that point, I'd done triathlon for 2 or 3 years, kind of alongside it.
Sure.
And I was doing both at like kind of like you'd say like an elite kind of junior level. And obviously had to pick, and I picked triathlon because I won the British champs that year for my age group. So decided to go with that. But I absolutely love rugby and many other sports, probably apart from football or soccer. Apart from it's the only sport I'm more of you're kind of like a rugby fan or a football fan, and I'm more of a rugby fan. But I mean, I obviously I like football as well, but I'm more of a rugby fan.
Yeah.
So
Let me
yeah.
ask you a question really quick about rugby. So I interview quite a few people over the internet. In fact, all of them for this podcast, and I see you there, but I actually don't get like a real understanding of like how tall and how big you are. When I think of rugby guys, I'm like, you're taking sustained pretty big hits. So like, how tall are you? How much do you
Yeah.
weigh?
I'd say, well, I'm 5'11", so I'm not the biggest guy.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not the
pretty tall.
smallest guy. And I probably weigh right now like 66 kilograms.
Okay.
But I mean, back when I was 14, it's basically as we started like going in the
Yeah.
gym. I like stopped before I got
Yeah.
huge. But you obviously couldn't tell because I'm still
Pretty lean.
But yeah, no. Yeah, so I played like scrum half, so you didn't have to be a big guy either. So
Yeah.
yeah,
What is
no, it was all right. I got stuck in.
scrim half?
So scrum halves, you kind of have like the forwards. So they're the big guys who normally aren't very fast, but they're very big and strong. And then you've got like the backs, which are like the slightly, I'd say, I mean, nowadays everyone's pretty big on a rugby field,
Sure.
but the slightly faster guys who are a bit more agile. And I'm the guy that kind of is in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So I pass the ball out. So I don't normally, it wouldn't be getting hit too
Yeah.
much or anything like that. But no, it was good fun.
Yeah. Do you miss rugby?
I do a bit. Yeah, I've well, while I've been at university, like me and a few mates have played like touch, like a couple times here and
Sure.
there. Still keep up to date with it every now and then. I'm not like a super fan, as in like I follow like the Premiership stuff, but I'll always watch the World Cups, the European Cups, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have siblings?
I do. I have a older brother and a younger sister. My older brother is actually he is 18 months older than me, so he's at the same university, which is nice because I mean we're about 2.5 hours from where I call home, Saffron Walden, at university. So it's nice to have someone like around. But he's a power athlete.
Okay.
So he does triathlon as well, or did do triathlon.
Okay.
He's now come away from triathlon. He's doing more cycling and really focused on that, and it's actually going really well for him as well.
Yeah. Does he have hopes to get into the professional arena for that type of a thing?
I think yeah, definitely. He's hard at work. He's on like a placement kind of working year, doing some engineering type stuff at the moment for his university degree. But he's still cycling. He's on. I think he's still on like kind of GB kind of talent kind of cycling squad, and he's in an academy up here. So he's training hard. Doing time trials, road races. I think he's about to start track. I think it's the track season. So
Okay, sweet.
yeah, so I think he's got hopes to if he can do it, he will. Yeah.
Tell me about your sister a little bit. What does she do, or what is she up to?
She's oh god, how old is she? 14, I think.
Okay.
No, feels like she's 14. She's just turned 17.
Okay.
No, she's just turned 17, which is a really odd thing for me because it's my younger sister. And in the UK you can drive a car at 17, so it's a weird feeling.
Sure.
No, so she's I've been like around her loads for the last couple of years because I've been living at uni or living in America. But so it was quite nice when I came back last year to get to spend a bit more time with her. She's very sporty, but like not as like super competitive as I'd say me or my brother. But which is perfectly fine. But she does like field hockey, I think you guys call it. A bit of gymnastics. So she now does gymnastics coaching.
Like she's
and she loves
her. She has a coach.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's done gymnastics as like growing up, and now she's coaching younger kids to do that as well.
For her.
which is nice. And then apart from that, she probably does a fair bit of horse riding.
Yeah.
So yeah, because we have
Question.
a horse, or we share a horse with someone. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you grow up on the horse? You know how to handle a horse?
Well, less so than my sister and my brother. I rode for a couple years. I'm not sure till how old, but I kind of stayed away from horse riding.
Yeah.
So I'd say I know how to ride a horse, but not to a very high level. And whenever I've ridden a horse, I've always been told I ride like a cowboy, which isn't apparently looked favorably upon.
Yeah, they do more like is English the most common form of riding over there? Because I know that there's different styles. I grew up around horse and stone,
Oh,
but I never did
I have no idea what any
it.
type of style
Okay.
of horse riding is. But no, yeah, I've helped be around the horses a tiny bit, but I haven't got too involved. Me and my dad kind of stayed away from
Yeah.
that, and my brother was quite into horse riding, and then it's more my mum and my sister absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So
Neat.
yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your parents. Who do you think you're more like?
Oh gosh, I'd say I'm more like my dad.
Yeah.
Definitely more like my dad. There's kind of like, you know how like the siblings kind of branch out.
Sure.
I'm more like my dad. I think my brother's a bit more like my mum. So my dad used to be a rugby player. He grew up all his like adult life as well playing rugby
Yeah.
for like the local kind of county and all sorts like that. And so my dad's a builder. And my mum is a sports masseuse, which is fairly handy.
Yeah. For sure.
So yeah, so that's really helpful when I need my body fixing. So yeah.
Is she gonna ever travel with you?
Oh, she every time she gets the opportunity,
Sure.
she'll come watch me race. I think it's almost harder to keep her away than it is to to make her come with me.
Yeah.
Which is, I think I'll grow up and I'll be very every now and then I'm a bit like, oh, I can go and do this one on my own and blah blah blah, and
Sure.
she'll come anyway, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think I'll really appreciate it, and I do really appreciate it when I'm older and now, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So it's really like they're both extremely supportive of what I'm trying to do, and they've done like absolutely everything under the sun to help me out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's good. I mean, that's a really fortunate thing, and that you have that appreciation. I'd say, I don't know if most people have that level of support, but also the self-awareness to know that you have that kind of support system around you.
Yeah, I'd say I probably should show it a bit more to them. There's always moments, obviously, with family where you're like, oh, blah blah blah. But deep down, I appreciate it massively, and I do realize how much they do for me.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more than a lot of people get. So yeah, for that I am very very happy.
Yeah. So if I was to ask your mom and dad, what was Jack like as a kid? What do you think they'd say?
Oh crikey, God, I was a yeah. I'm not allowed to. I don't know. I won't swear, but I was a little beep when I was younger. I did, but in like a funny way. I was a problem child, they'd say.
Mm-hmm.
I think my brother was a bit more reserved, and I was all over the
Yeah.
place. I did all sorts of things like throwing tantrums all the time
Yeah.
and doing all sorts. Yeah, so there's many stories. I'm sure I'll hear back at like a wedding in the future at some point. That'll probably put me in my spot.
Yeah.
Climbing out windows, all sorts.
Oh, really? You used to climb out of windows?
Oh yeah, I did all sorts when I was younger. I was got up to a lot of random
Yeah.
stuff.
So what calmed you down? Because I hear like you're taking a little bit more of a serious approach to life now.
I'd say, I mean, I've always got that like kind of in the background, I
Yeah.
think. But I don't know. As well, some people may say differently, but I have definitely matured as I've just got through my teenage
Yeah.
years. Like when I got to about 18, I was a bit more. Well, I was a lot more like reserved and kind of like self-aware kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do like stupid things. Um, But yeah, I think I just matured, and surrounded myself by like with the right people to kind of like put me in the right
Yeah.
direction, kind of thing. Um, so yeah, I was never like a bad child. I just did more frustratingly annoying things.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Sounds like you had a lot of energy
um,
to get out.
so yeah, basically, and obviously, I mean, it's reflected in the sport I do.
Sure.
Yeah, so exactly.
Do you have any favorite childhood memories?
Oh, I'd say, I think going. We used to, so we did like a family holiday every year,
Okay.
um, and a lot of the time it was when we went to Spain. My grandparents kind of had like a tiny little villa out there,
Oh, sweet.
in a place called Calpe,
Mhm.
which is actually, as the years have gone on, it's developed into quite a renowned place for like cycling camps and
Oh, really?
professional cycling teams to go there.
That's awesome.
We haven't been there much in the last couple of years, just like COVID
Yeah.
and me and my brother off to uni and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I that's always fond memories from going there every year. It's a lovely place, and always nice to just chill out and like be a family and kind of do random crap, go on like long walks up like kind of like almost like mountains
Hmm.
and stuff like that. Yeah, so probably that as like my fond memory as a kid.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I'll ask you a little bit of a deeper question because as I'm talking to you, so I just turned 31, so I'm just 10 years ahead of you. Um, my life has changed quite a bit, but when I was 21, I remember kind of thinking some thoughts. I think I had a little bit more of a screwy, unlevel head than you do, so it was a little bit different for me, and I was just starting to kind of figure out who I am, what do I want to do, why do I want to do what I want to do. So I'm almost asking. I feel like I'm asking myself this in a lot of ways. But for you, Jack, as a 21-year-old, you've got, it seems, a lot of really amazing opportunities ahead of you. Obviously, things and setbacks and other challenges that I'm not aware of because I don't know you super deeply. But when you think about the next 10 years of your life, and maybe you haven't even thought about that, but what would 31-year-old Jack be doing, and what would he say to his younger self? You think?
Gosh, well, it's interesting you say that. I mean, at the moment, I'm trying to make some big decisions regarding kind of what I want to do with triathlon and stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm on that edge of like I'm not earning at the moment. Obviously, I'm not earning money like or enough like money to sustain myself, let alone kind of make it a career.
Yeah.
Which that's my kind of my goals for the next year or two is to make a considerable kind of like leap towards that anyway.
Yeah.
Um, After that, I mean, my plan and my goal right now it's got to be the 2028
Yeah.
Olympics. Like I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to be there, and I do, and that's my goal. And 2032 of hopefully if I manage to make one or two.
Yeah.
Um,
You got time.
so they're my main goals, and that's like the Olympic dream kind of thing.
Hmm.
And I know it's going to be very tough to get there because of how competitive short course triathlons become and the systems and stuff. And I have my opinion on the federation system. Um, they're both good and bad, about that, but yeah. So at the moment, I'd probably try give myself some advice, like just stick in there for the moment, and just keep working hard and don't regret not doing certain things. And over the course of the last year, I mean, I took a massive jump leaving university. Like I've kind of come back to it, but not like fully. So I left university
Hmm.
and kind of went and found this awesome coach. So my coach right now, which is Ryan Bolton, um, and so he's still coaching me while I'm here.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that was one of the best decisions I've made, because I've had an absolutely amazing year. I've also had obviously some downs in that year where things didn't go quite right,
Sure.
and then I took a big drop, and then I've been boosted back up, which is just life, and everyone's going to go through that. And I know there's going to be a lot more of that in the next couple of years, just because that's what elite sport is. It's an amazing place.
Yeah.
About 20 to 30% of the time, and everything else is, I mean, it depends how you deal with it, and kind of person you are. So anyone who's in it, I kind of have respect for, because I know what it's like.
Yeah.
And I think everyone knows what it's like when they're in elite sport. That there are those big tough spots where, like, no one, like, there's no spotlight on you, but you feel like there is all the time. So the advice I'd give to myself would kind of just be like, just hang in there and get through it, and don't be afraid to kind of lean on certain people that you've got around you. Like at the moment, like my parents, I've got a wonderful girlfriend who's, at the moment, I'm leaning on, like, not like really out there, but like in my head, I'm leaning on her quite a lot.
Sure.
Because I see her every day, and she's there for me. So she lives just down the road because she's at the same university. So she always cheers me up, and in that sense, I'm leaning on her. And then like some of my good mates. So I've got a very good friend,
Sure.
Who's also just living nearby. So
Is that Dan?
it's quite nice. So it's to know you have those people around you, and just be like, you know what, right? Let's just keep powering through and get through stuff.
Yeah.
And then enjoy the good times as well. Like, just make every moment count.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of advice I try to give to myself right now. Yeah.
Well, great answer. I'll make sure to clip it up and then put it in archive and have it sent to you in 10 years. Maybe schedule an email for 10 years that it'll be
Oh
sent to you,
yeah,
because
that'd be
it would
brilliant.
be really interesting to see that kind of thing. You mentioned your good friend who lives close by. Is this, I think his name is Dan. Is that Dan?
No. So the friend I was talking about who lives close by is called Harry. Harry Taylor.
Okay.
He's an elite 100-meter sprinter.
Okay.
So he runs 100 meters in like 10:3.
Whew.
So he's pretty quick.
Moving.
But no, he's a very, very close friend of mine. I've made at university. So yeah. But no, you mentioned Dan. Yeah, Dan has been absolutely awesome and an incredible friend to me over the last. We've known each other for a long, long, long time.
Yeah.
We say to each other that we're like blood brothers because we're born on the same day.
Oh,
we're
cool.
exactly the same age.
Oh, that's amazing.
May 14th. So so which is pretty cool. But we've done lots of stuff together. So on our 18th birthday, for example, the world was in the middle of lockdown for COVID. Obviously, like most people would be partying and doing whatever on their 18th birthday, and he kind of called me up a couple of weeks beforehand and was like, we should just do something stupid, because we were all like FaceTiming like over Zoom. Like Zwift was just like becoming like quite a big thing. So we were hopping on doing like a couple hour rides together and stuff like that, and we came up with a stupid idea to do 18 hours on a bike straight on our 18th birthday.
Oh my goodness, that is a long time.
Yeah, and considering the most I'd spent on the bike was about 6 hours, we were like, I think we went into it with a lot more kind of we were very excited to do it. We got about halfway and we realized how tough it was going to be.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. We got Super League involved. We got so many companies involved, and we did it. We raised a lot of money for charity as well.
This was during the during the pandemic.
During the pandemic,
Wow.
yeah. So 3 years ago now, yeah. So was it 3? Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say I haven't actually heard of that. I'm gonna have to go check that out. It was at live.
Yeah, so that was like the first time me and Dan got quite close, because we did like 2 weeks of full on, just on call every day, planning, getting different companies involved.
Wow.
Like trying to send us stuff basically. and all sorts. And that was awesome. It was really hard. I remember getting to about the 7-hour mark, and he was just like, "Oh, Jack, I'm absolutely done for."
Yeah, man. Like, how do you?
And then we got like 10 hours left or something.
So
But
talk to me a little bit about the nutrition side of that, because like I've been on some, I think the longest is like 7.5 hours, and that was grueling. But how do you manage the output? Are you just like 10 watts counts,
well,
or what did you do?
I mean, to be honest, I seem to remember we did like the first 6 hours, and we were like, we started at midnight. So we started as soon as it turned our birthday. So we started at midnight. And the first 6 hours, because everyone was kind of like, most people we knew were asleep and stuff like that. I mean, I had my sister, she was just bringing me like hot chocolate and just random bits. We went through kind of like the nutrition plan with, we had a nutritionist from the England talent squad, like help us out with it and call us up with it. I think Dan and I's main question was, how much coffee can we drink? And is it too much like a thing? And she was like, oh, you should probably cap it at this. And I don't think we paid attention to it.
What did you cap it at? About 450 milligrams or something?
I was drinking like 5 cups an hour.
Oh my goodness, dude.
It was ridiculous. But it was basically just like keep eating. I had loads of snacks, loads of loads of sports drinks, like things like all like ice tonic drinks being made for me. I was basically just getting past all the food, and it wasn't too much of a concern with the nutrition point of view. We probably overdid it with nutrition. Like flapjacks, all sorts like that. I can't exactly remember, but it was no technical plan for the nutrition. It was just keep eating, basically. I think it was just kind of like, you can't, like, obviously, I know it's like you can only really maximally take like 60 to 90 grams an hour kind of thing. So we were just kind of like ticking it along, but never really ran out. And then the wattage wise, like the plan, I don't think we had one, like power wise, and we really just we did the first 6 hours and we've averaged like 170 watts or something. And we're like, we're doing really well, this is easy. And then we got about an hour later and we were both sitting at 100 watts going, we can hardly turn our legs over.
Oh man, that's insane.
But no, it was a very fun time. And yeah, no, it was awesome to do.
Was that any type of a record that you guys broke? I mean, 18 hours, a long time, but people do crazy.
No, I think people there's definitely some more stupid people out there, just as stupid as us.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a cool thing to do, and it was a very big thing. I think we managed to kind of influence some other people to do some big ones. So a lot of other people did like a relay for 24 hours, and then there was like a 16-hour ride someone did for their birthday, and everyone was like doing it for charity. So we raised a lot of money for that, and it was a very cool thing to do. But yeah, that's basically that. And then from then on, Dan and I kind of like we stayed in touch, and we were pretty close after that. And we'd been racing for the last couple of years before that, like just on the national circuit, and Dan was winning everything. As I was taking it like kind of less seriously at that point. And then obviously, what was it? It was the last year now. So I went out in my second year of university, just on like I think it was like a 2-week camp, if that, 10 days. Dan just invited me out to Arizona to train, and I was like, oh, you know what? I was feeling a bit down at the time. I was like, if I can get together the money, I'll do it. And I was like, I had some spare money, probably used a bit of student loan to kind of go, okay, let's just do it. Like kind of one of those like screw it moments. Sure. I'll come and do it, see what's happening. And I had an absolutely awesome time. Okay. It was one of the hardest 10 days training I've ever done, because I kind of threw myself in the deep end, having not really prepared for the level of stuff that Dan had built up to over a couple months. Yeah. I chatted to Ryan while I was out there, who's now my coach, and he gave me some good advice and all sorts. And I kind of had it in my head. I was like, this is the kind of thing I want to be doing. And for like, I don't necessarily want to be stuck in one place, which I'm still not sure about at the moment yet, but it's kind of like a money thing at the moment. Yeah, so I came back from that really, really motivated to kind of go, right, I want to do this as like my career. Like that's the kind of life, and that will be hopefully many months of the year, each and every year. So I came back from that, and then I took the decision to kind of take a year out of uni and go find Ryan, and Ryan become my coach, and then go and join them in America and stuff for last year. So yeah.
So how did your life change and your perspective on the sport of triathlon change during that like decision to where we are today?
Well, it's definitely, I knew it was going to be tough, and it has been. But some of like when you're in the swing of things in the middle of a camp with the people around you, and they're in a swing of things, and it is just the best time you can like have. And you're just, I mean, to some people it might not sound cool, but when you're just like, you eat, sleep, train, go to a coffee shop, repeat kind of thing,
Yeah.
you're just loving life. And somewhere like Arizona, we first went to Santa Fe,
Okay.
so New Mexico, for about 3 weeks ish. Very cold, but beautiful.
Mm.
Like, I mean, I've never been to America before. Like, well, I'd been to America once before with Dan
Okay.
to Arizona, but apart from that, I hadn't really explored much, and it was amazing up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Arizona, of course, is an amazing place to train.
Yeah.
It's lovely and warm. Um, it's great places to run and cycle and swim. Like it's and having the group I had out there, we had Morgan Pearson train with us, so he's
Okay.
coached by Ryan, um, and Dar Smith as well, and then a couple age groupers, who's Ben Stern, who's become a professional long course athlete
Mhm.
as of last year, and Sean, who's working on his pro card as well. And we're all focused on like the same goals,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we work off each other so well. So it's just an awesome way to live.
Yeah. Sounds like very really nice because you have a very clearly defined purpose and goal. So there's no second guessing. Am I doing the right thing? Like you're just going after it. And I can imagine that feels really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you realize that like, oh, I'm actually kind of good at this when it comes to triathlon? Because you said you started really young. You're like 12 or
Yeah.
less.
So I mean, it was like, ha, I'm gonna sound a bit big headed and cocky here, but it was pretty much straight away. So I was in a swim club already and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and I ran cross countries in school, and it was kind of like just kind of like natural talent, which I am very lucky to have, and
Sure.
I think I do have a very big potential if I can unlock it and be consistent. Because yes, I may have the talent, but if I don't work hard, like it's not going to make anything.
Yeah.
But I think I did my first triathlon, and ended up doing like an extra lap on the bike and all sorts like that. It was just on like a field at this thing. And then I did the next two, and I think I did all right. I think I podiumed at them. And this is just like kids triathlon.
Sure.
And I wasn't really aware, but I'd managed to then become like a reserve for what we call when we're younger, um, like the inter-regional championship. So everyone in the UK, it's basically like nationals.
Yeah.
Um, everyone in the UK, the best people, but 3 people from each region come to one event, and that's the big event of the year. And I was like the reserve for that, and someone pulled out, and so I got put in, and so I think my third ever event was like this interregional national thing, and I did all sorts wrong. It was the first time I'd tried doing my shoes on my bike. So I tried to take my feet out and my shoe came off in my hand. I just kind of looked at it while I was cycling. I was like, how am I going to dismount? And then I ran down the wrong transition section, and then I was in a frantic and I ran off and I was like, oh, here we go. And I was like, I've still got my helmet on. All sorts went wrong. So that was like my third ever triathlon. And I think I came like 28th or something, but I was pretty happy because I was like the third ever one. It was a big like IRC interregional championship event. So I was quite happy then. And then the year after, I think I moved up quite a few spaces. I think I came 8th, and I was like in the age group, I was like a year or two below, and I came like 8th. And then the year after that, I podiumed. And so it was a pretty consistent kind of, and I think after that I got put into this England talent kind of squad. So in America, I know they have Project Podium. So I think it's kind of like it's a similar-ish thing. And that basically GB select however many young triathletes at like that kind of age and guide them through over the next 3-4 years. So yeah, I podiumed at that, and then the year after that, I went to European. I qualified for European Championships, which was my first kind of like international event, and where I got all like the GB kit, which is a very cool day. So it all comes through the post and stuff. And that was in, where was that? Austria.
Okay.
Kitzbühel, Austria, which is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. So it's like a ski resort, but it was in the summer. So obviously no snow, but the mountains, and there was like a lake up in the top. We swam in there, and it's a very pretty place. And I mean, at that point I was kind of like, right, this is awesome. And I think that same year I think I won British Champs, and another big event called like School Games. And at that point I was just kind of like, yeah, right, I'm pretty good at this sport, considering I'm not training massively for it. I was just like kind of just doing different bits and bobs, going for bike rides with my mates, like having fun with it. And I was like, right, well, I'm absolutely loving having fun just doing this with my friends, and I'm doing really well at it. So yeah, that was kind of like when I won British Champs. That was kind of like the moment I knew I was pretty good, considering, and only I really knew how little I kind of trained for that. And I was like, oh crikey, I've done pretty well here.
So I've been talking to you for about 39 minutes, and so I'm basing this question off of that, and then also kind of seeing some of your stuff throughout Super League and different media posts and stuff like that. But you seem like a relatively humble person. I wouldn't say you're overly egotistical or confident, but my question is, through all of the successes that you have had, even with the ups and the downs, has it ever been a temptation to let it go to your head?
What the success?
The success, or like I'm good at this, like you hold your chest up a little higher and maybe look down on other people. Has that ever been a temptation?
I think it's an odd one. You always I mean, I try to be quite humble, especially when I'm like trying to speak, like, you know, in public and stuff. I think in my own head I'm quietly very confident, and that confidence does come out when I get a big result. Like at the beginning of this year, like in Super League when I came third, like obviously I was like, oh wow, cool, awesome. I think there's obviously temptation to let that go to your head and stuff. I think you've got to remain kind of humble. I think you've got to prove yourself first before you can sing and dance and shout about it. Like you need to have something to back it up. And I can sing, dance, but I need to have a bit more consistency. And I also think by being super, like, I believe that I can be the best. Like there's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Like I think I have the talent, like a lot more talent than a lot of other people.
Sure.
Like I can be quite cocky about it, but I've learned over the years I was very, very cocky when I was a bit younger, like 18, 19. I've learned to just kind of like reduce it a tiny bit, keep it a tiny bit more to yourself, and kind of let the walking do the talking kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which hopefully next year will prove a bit more of. I mean, I've done bits and bobs, but it's been a bit inconsistent for me.
Yeah.
And I can be honest in that, like I've had some really poor races, and there's no excuses for that. Like I didn't do great, and other people beat me. Like and they put more work in, but I know if I put the work in and I can do it, I can be the best.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Do you, whenever you have a poor result, is there any time that you think you could have a quote unquote statistically poor result when you feel like, I did well this race? Do you think that's possible?
I think if you've put the work in and you know you've put the work in, and then you don't get the result, you go, right, fair enough, like I've done what I can, kind of thing. I think I had that in my second arena games in London. We'd had an awesome camp and come back from America and gone to Portugal and done a prep set. Like me and Dan had just, us two were in Portugal.
Yeah.
But while we're in Portugal, we both got injured like at the beginning of that camp for running. So we didn't do like any running for 3-4 weeks.
Wow.
And we'd done all we could on the bike. We were really fit on the bike, and on the day, I don't think I'd run more than 500 meters before I got on the treadmill.
Wow.
Kind of thing. So I was like, right, well, whatever happens, happens. So yeah, I mean, I got through to like the repechage. I got quite lucky because I think it was Jamie Riddle, like kind of was even more ill than me and couldn't finish the heats. So we kind of got through. But I was happy with that. Like, even though I wanted to get to the final and do really well, because I knew I was in the fitness to do so. I'd done everything I can, and still like not done too well, but was kind of like, this was okay. But I think there was another point later in the year where my swimming had been very inconsistent, and I was aiming for World Under 23 qualifiers, and like a couple months before I would have been like, right, well, there's not a question about it, kind of like being able to qualify and come top 2 in this race. Yeah. And then I dropped off my swimming, and it'd been a bit inconsistent, and I hadn't necessarily put that work in that swim. And then I turned up to the race and I had a shit swim. So and then there was nothing I could do. Like we were in the third bike pack, and I mean, I killed myself on the bike, and then I tried to run and then died halfway through the run, and I was nowhere near the front. And after that, I was very down, because I was like, right, well, I know the reason I've done badly, but the reason I've done badly is because I didn't put the work in. So I can't be angry with myself, but I am angry that I didn't put the work in, if that makes sense. No, that makes... So I think it's a lot of like bit of self-reflection, like being accountable, like to yourself. Like everyone's going to have like a day where like they're not going to do something, and just like the only person that knows it is you. You're only going to cheat yourself. And even me saying this, like I've done it once or twice. Like everyone's going to do that, but it's just keeping that to a minimum and being really like self-accountable to yourself. But yeah,
I've heard a lot of varying philosophies from people over the time that I've been doing this. Mostly are relatively consistent with what you're saying, but I have met a few outliers who are like, no, if I don't feel like doing it, or the body's not responding, I don't do it. So like there's there's different approaches to it. And I think that there's, as we all kind of learn our bodies, whether you're age group,
Yeah.
athlete or professional or whatnot, everybody's a little bit different. But
I think you do have to listen to your body, but you can only
mind.
you know
Yeah.
if you're like telling the truth.
Yeah.
If you know that you're gonna go, right, oh, my body's not feeling it today, blah blah blah, and just go, oh, coach, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
You're cheating yourself.
Yeah.
Like no one else. Like it's no one else's problem.
Yeah.
It's going to be your problem on race day.
Yeah.
So it depends what you're trying to do. I would say, but you do have to listen to your body. If you're not in the right thing, do not push your body over a limit, because then you'll get ill, you'll injure yourself,
Right.
blah blah blah. So it's a fine line, but you know that line if like when you're doing it, kind of thing.
Yeah. Good answers. Good answers. So I'm going to read a little bit of a quote from an article I read, and then I have a follow-up question with it. So in the article I was reading that you said, quote, I didn't know if I was going to get a start in Montreal, and if I got a start in Montreal, I'd have to do amazingly well to get to London, and now I'm in London, so anything can happen. I'm hoping it's a big breakthrough year. So my question is, has this been in your mind a breakthrough year, and is there any part of this year that you're like, maybe not, maybe it was a little bit of a setback?
A little bit of both, being totally honest. I think I had a lot of goals at the beginning of the year. I obviously knew, well, it's interesting. My goals, which I thought were possible, I didn't hit. And my goals that I thought weren't possible, I did hit. So in a sense, I've done some pretty awesome and amazing things. Like if I was to tell me this time last year that I've done what I've done, I'd be like, oh my God, that's like absolutely crazy awesome. But I didn't do this, this, and this. I'd be like, oh, okay, that's a bit annoying considering you've done this, but not this. So I'd say like my main two goals, which I thought were like achievable, would be going to European champs and going to world champs, both of which, I mean, European champs I missed by the qualification spot by one spot, which I had a bit of a dispute with the federation about, but I mean it was in line with their kind of policy.
Yeah.
I think a lot of athletes were a bit on my side, and then I had a call and whatnot, and it was explained to me, but I wasn't selected for that. And then world champs, I had a crap swim, and I wasn't even in the qualification race, kind of thing. So I didn't hit those, but I did hit. So that quote you were on about, so the Montreal. So I applied for the Montreal Super League race with kind of like a 50-50 chance to get in. And it was completely because I didn't have a very high world ranking, but I knew it was in Montreal and some athletes wouldn't be able to make it. And I was in America, so I could kind of just fly up. And luckily got in. So got in from the wait list. And at that point, I was like, okay, like this is like anything from this point onwards is like, you know, a bonus. I can just absolutely go out there, smash it. I think my coach was just like you could like, because it fits my physiology. I'm very anaerobic and short based. Like I'm improving my longer stuff at the moment, but quite naturally like
You can just
snappy and bursty and just this, that, and the other. And he was like, you could really do well here. So I think I remember I scraped through to the finals as a fastest loser spot because Lionel Sanders beat me on a sprint kind of finish.
Yeah, I remember that.
I remember going into it like, obviously I hadn't met Lionel before then, and I have massive respect for him. But I know before then, obviously everyone was chatting about how Lionel was going to do. And I think we were all like, oh, we'll just absolutely blitz him, which, I mean, we kind of sort of did in the swim. And then we obviously, we didn't have a clue like how consistent he'd be on the bike. And he just there is no drop off for him. He gets to a level and he just holds it. Whereas we're all starting up here and we just die.
Yeah.
And he doesn't move. He just stays there. So it's one of those, like, it's like a movie where someone's just the villain is walking after you and you're like running as fast as you can. It's just walking and just keeping
That's
up.
a great way to put it.
It's awesome. So, and I spoke to him, I met him, and he's an awesome guy. So I obviously did, and then I had an absolutely race out of my mind in the final, and I managed to come third.
Yeah.
So I was obviously over the moon and everything like that, and celebrating, kind of not knowing where I was, and I was like ecstatic and all sorts like this. And I think Dan came up to me. I was just like, "Oh, let's come talk to this guy. He's the kind of like the CEO of Super League." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went up to him and just chatted, and I was like, "Oh, do you reckon you could get me into London?" Because I knew I wasn't going to get into London off my world ranking kind of thing. Yeah. So I'd need like a wild card spot. And I was like, well, I've podiumed here. Like, I might have a shot at like getting somewhere in like the series and stuff. And I spoke to them, sent them an email afterwards, and managed to. I can't remember when I found out, but I managed to get on the start list in London, which I was like, wow, well this has happened.
Yeah.
And so got to London, and as I said before, like, not in the best shape, because I'd come off an injury and I hadn't run and still had the injury. So I was like, oh gosh, gonna just send it as hard as I can. And it was lovely in London because I think most of, like, there must have been about 50, 60 people there who came down for my heat the day before from my like local club. So they traveled into London and they were all there shouting. Yeah. So I was getting the most support out of anyone there because it was like a free entry on the heats day. So there was no one else there apart from like my local triathlon club. So I was getting like shouted, and I'm like, well, Henry Schuman's there, like, and all sorts like this, and they weren't getting like any support. Like, and I was like, wow,
field advantage, my man. That's awesome.
But no, it was absolutely an awesome event. And I mean, Super League's just like an amazing company that's come in. It's paving the way for like the future of like triathlon and all this stuff, alongside like the PTO for like long distance and stuff. So obviously I then said this quote that you've read out, which is like, if I do this, and maybe if I do this, I'll do this. So I made sure to kind of speak to Michelle Dillon in London. And I'd spoken to her in Montreal. And so I knew she was like one of the team managers for the main series, championship series later on in the year. So I spoke to her there, and I think we came away, and then like a couple months passed, and I sent her another message before everyone was kind of like selected and contracts were given out, and she was like, "Oh, we have filled up the team, unfortunately." But I remember I've got the DMs as well. She was like, "We'll keep you in mind," kind of thing,
like,
and I was like,
them?
"That's amazing."
Like, you screenshotted them?
No, I've just got them like still on like my Instagram, like just kind of DMs kind of thing. I just sent her a DM and was just like, "Oh, hey, like, how's it going? Heard anything? Blah blah blah." I think I just pestered her once or twice, and she was like, "We've got you in mind, or like you're like, I'll keep you in mind." And I think it was a week and a half, 2 weeks before Toulouse. I think she just sent me a message, which was like, "So, are you around?" kind of thing, like, "You up for this?" And I was like, "Yeah,
of course, yeah,
of course." So it turns out Alex wasn't going to do the Toulouse race for whatever reason. I'm not sure what it was, but obviously opened up a spot on the Sharks team. And Michelle kept her promise and kept me in mind. Then I was off to Toulouse, and I was just like, wow, this is mind blowing. So like kind of like one of my biggest goals of the season was like, if I had done this in Montreal, I might have got a spot in London. And I was like, right, that's probably as far as it's going to go.
Yeah.
And then if I do really, really well in London, like I might get given a contract, which I didn't. But I'd made like those connections and I'd made an impression and kept at it. And I somehow got a wildcard spot on one of the championship series races in Toulouse. And it was, I was just like, right, big week and a half of training kind of thing. And Toulouse was absolutely unreal. The crowds there were, because this was that was the biggest event I've ever been a part of. And probably the highest quality of field by far that I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
With like multiple like world champions and all sorts. And there's like photos from the race of me getting out with like Hayden Wild out of the swim and in front of Christian Blumenfeld and jumping on the bike next to him and all this stuff. And it's just like, it's one of those like pinch yourself moments that you do look back on. And like, I've reflected like once or twice, but like, I mean, until now speaking to you, I haven't actually like thought about it too much.
Yeah.
But it is like a pinch yourself moment. Like I'm up there racing. Yes, I got dropped by Christian on like the first lap of the bike, but I almost got on his wheel.
Yeah.
I think it was like edging out slowly, and I was like, I didn't quite get in the draft, and I was like, oh no. But I mean, I made it to the third and final round, which was my goal. I was like, don't get eliminated until the third round. So I reached that goal, so I was very happy about that, and I managed to get a point for the team. So hopefully, put that towards like the Sharks kind of team kind of points thing. Yeah. But unbelievable experience.
Yeah. Good for you, man. Yeah, take a moment, keep breathing those in. I would even encourage you to write some of those things down and soak them in, because man, I'm 31 now, and I literally remember turning 21 just like the other day, and so much has happened since then. And I wish that I had, in some of my past experiences, like taken a little more time to relish them, because when you hold on to them, it's just something, like you're saying, 0.00001% of the world's never going to get to even experience something that much of a rush. To be dropped off of Christian's wheel, even though, you were that close, like that's just an amazing thing. So I'm excited for you, man. It's really cool to see and hear that story.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, some of those moments are just awesome. And like, so when I like look back on the year, like, I might not have got to some of the races, and I've done badly in some of the kind of national series races. I've also reached that other top level. So it's weird because Super League's kind of like to the side of like the world triathlon racing.
Yeah.
So I've not done great in that kind of section, which is kind of the section I need to be doing well in. But I like in my heart, like I want to be doing Super League racing. And the fact that I've got my foot in the door now, I mean, I've got to keep it up, and I've got to work really hard this year. I'm not sure the races haven't been released or anything like that, and I think I need to work just as hard to even get considered for them. Like probably work even harder. But that's the kind of racing I want to be doing, and the fact that I got a taste of that is like just a motivator. Yeah, it fuels the fire kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, kind of a stupid question, because I've only probably in the last like 6 months really tried to start paying attention to Super League a little bit more, and I'm still like not on a level of knowledge to ask really good questions. So here's a kind of a stupid one, but how does it work for you as an athlete if you want to race Super League in the next year? I know you said you have to like kind of apply to be at races, but you have to get a contract sometimes for teams.
So it's a bit of a headache, to be fair. So the arena games, which I mean they haven't announced for next year, but I think they're still doing them at like the beginning of the year. So that kind of series is in coordination with World Triathlon. So it's essentially like a World Cup or a Conti Cup, or even like a World Series kind of thing, where you have to apply to your federation and they put you forward to it. And then it's it's ranked based on World Triathlon ranking, the roll down on the wait list and stuff. So 60 guys apply for like a start, like, and God, what is it, like 6, each nation gets like 6 starts or whatever.
Okay.
They'll be based on like the first top 30 in World Triathlon ranking will be put on that start list. And then if someone drops out, the next person goes on who's the next best ranked kind of thing. So that's the arena games. With regards to the championship series racing, is completely separate, individual, and that is purely at the discretion of Super League. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, that's just based on your basic like connections, like, and stuff like that. So, but most of those connections they're based on, you know, like they want the best guys in the world to race for their thing. So if you're one of the best guys in the world or anything like that, you're gonna be getting selected for this. But yeah, so I mean, this year, I mean, I don't think anyone saw it coming, but I mean, they might be doing a couple more different bits, like Superliga, changing their stuff and adapting the racing like for the better, like every year. Like this year was the first year they've done kind of like a country kind of system, which is weird. So Team Sharks was all UK athletes. Yeah. And then they did the American team, which was the Warriors. I think you've had an interview with Nick. Yeah. Nick Chase. Yeah. And then, like, obviously there was the Bahrain team. They're not really a country, but like they're like the best team in the world at triathlon kind of thing. Yeah. Like, and yeah, so they've got all the Bahrain athletes. So I don't know what they'll do with it this year, but it chops and changes, and it's kind of like you've just got to prove yourself in certain races and appeal to like the team managers. And I mean, it's a grind. It's just crazy. Yeah. Like it's just everything you like that you could put into if you could put everything into a ball that you'd want triathlon to be in my head. Yeah. It would be Super League, and like some of the stuff in there is just like it's just fast, crazy, like, and it's the best guys in the world. Like, yeah. So yeah, it seems super super fun. Nick made a comparison. He said it's like Formula One meets WWE. So Formula One, I'm sure you're familiar with. WWE is a little bit, in my opinion, dumb, but I get what the comparison is. Yeah. It's crazy racing, and I mean, to be fair, it's alongside like Super League alongside like the stuff PTO's doing. Yeah, like when I'm thinking of doing, you know, triathlon as a career, and I'm sure I speak for quite a lot of people who even want to be professional triathletes as like a short course. Like I didn't know really anything about long course until about 2 years ago. Oh, really? And like the professional side of it, I was like, oh, okay, there's Ironman World Champs or whatever. But the things that like I've been really following it this year with like listening to a couple like podcasts with people on there and different stuff like that. And obviously, like, I mean, he doesn't coach him now, but like my coach was associated with Sam Long, and obviously like Lionel's like I spoke to him a bit, and I've been a fan of his for ages. Maybe he'll be your coach one day. Maybe not. No. Yeah. No, I think Lionel's probably one of the hardest working guys ever. And I think what he's doing now is probably what he should have done, and I think he'll agree. What he should have done all along, which is, you know, like just do it his way. Yeah. Because he tried other people's ways, and people tried to like lead him astray with all these random stuff, and he kind of like, you know, people were telling him to do it and it was the best way, and it doesn't work for him. Like the way that works for him is to work hard and grind, and then and I think that's what he is. And if he does that again, which I think he is doing it again with a slightly better mind, I reckon he's gonna come back, and if he can learn to even get onto a middle pack in the swim, I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just because of the mindset and everything, his approach to racing and stuff.
Yeah.
But but with stuff like PTO coming in and Super League, it's the right way that triathlon needs to go with regards to like the professional side, because one, the entertainment, like getting the fans involved with it, like yes, there's holding events and getting everyone involved kind of thing. That's like a separate, that's almost like the business side of it, because I know that's how all the companies make most of the money.
Sure. Yeah.
But the professional side of it, bringing that money in, making it entertaining, is what we need as like athletes.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with the PTO tour next year. And as a short course athlete and being quite young, I mean, my coach is already like building my strength quite considerably with specific sessions and stuff, and in quite like a unique way to him. I think a lot of different coaches do it quite like differently, considering I'm in and around kind of Alex and stuff, like, and I know how the federations train the short course athletes, and I now train slightly differently, like bike run wise. But I'm like looking and I'm like going, right, maybe I might consider, just upping my racing to, that PTO kind of distance and being able to encapsulate that, because I'm like, right, well, there's so much money in it, and I mean, if it's being made as entertaining as short course and as fun, and to be fair, like, I mean, diving into the aeroness and all sorts like that, and the kind of exposure that long course gives you as well, I'm reassessing different things, and I'm like, right, I think you'll get a lot more people crossing over, like from short course, like World Series level, which hopefully I'll be at in the next couple years. And hopefully it'll be a lot more entertaining for everyone. So
that does seem like,
it's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It does seem like the natural progression of things, at least in the past few years, how it's kind of been portrayed, even though no one's outright said it. It's like short course, graduate to middle distance, then to long course, because I think as that body physiologically does change and continue to adapt and grow, like, like when you were talking about Lionel, the fact that he was able to kind of get to that level and stay there, it's because, like, I mean, that's his training regimen. It's like, I go out for a 4-hour ride or whatever, and you just hold and power as long as you can. So it's pretty interesting. Man, so many questions. Don't want to keep you on here too long, but for this aspect of your life, obviously it's become a big part of your identity, and I think it will be for a time to come, especially as you kind of like continue to build a network in the space. But would you say that you feel called or destined, or like this is where you're supposed to be in life?
At the moment, I mean, there are doubts, but I do think this was what I was kind of like. If you say destined and stuff, I normally typically wouldn't go down kind of that route of saying things, but I do think I was kind of like born to do triathlon. And if like I'm not religious, but whatever. But if I was to say like my God's given me a gift, it is to be good at sport, and more specifically triathlon is what I'd say. And I think if I can make the most of that, it will be really fulfilling for me personally.
Sure.
And hopefully, I mean, it's always like, and as like I've gone along like this journey, hopefully I'm just starting like this like kind of like career journey over the next hopefully 10 years, maybe slightly more.
20.
Like, it's already like occurring to me that I've got so much backing and support from like the people that have helped me get to where I am already. And like the people in my local club, the fact that I can even go there and they're like I don't know some of them, and they all know who I am, and I'm like, wow, like they're all looking up to me, and I'm being told by like their parents, and their parents coming up to me and going, oh, blah, 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 and asking me questions. And I'm like, wow, this is quite cool. Like being an inspiration to other people to to start that dream off for them as well
Yeah.
is one of the most awesome feelings, like, I think, like, there is.
Yeah.
And it comes with pressure, but it's such an amazing feeling. And I think I'm only just like touching the waters of it a bit, like with certain people, and like I'm by no means a big name in triathlon at all yet. Hopefully I will be someday.
You're on your way.
That's my goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's weird being kind of like almost in the middle. Like I used to look up to this person, this person, this person, like, and almost seeing that a couple people were looking up to me is a really weird feeling and flipping on its head.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I was on the trainer this morning, and I was watching a podcast. Have you heard of the Rich Roll podcast?
No, I haven't.
I'll have to send it to you and check it out, but it's really good. He has on a lot of
Yeah.
different types of people. But Mark Cavendish, you know who he is?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So he was talking to Mark about, coming back for another year. And if you're familiar with Mark's story, he's a bit older. I think he's going to be 41, and he's going back to his like 20th
I might have
tour.
heard actually. I might have heard a clip or two from it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because he
yeah.
was sharing a little bit kind of what you were talking about, as especially as he's gotten older and he's had kids now, people coming up to him and asking for a signature. He never really realized how much that signature meant to someone else until he had a kid where he was going over to Pagaccia and asking, "Hey, can you sign this jersey for my little kid?" And then seeing how the kid reacts and stuff. So it's interesting to hear you say that, because as you continue to grow and get more spotlight, especially in the Super League world, because it's so put on as a production, and you get that. I was going to ask you, how has that affected your life? But you've kind of answered that. But as you continue to grow, like, how do you think that will affect who you are as an individual? Because there's a lot to be thankful for, but there's pressure too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, like, how has that affected my life? I mean, obviously it's been, I mean, when at the time I was like, whoa, like I was getting a bunch of social media followers, like lots of attention, but like everyone's sending like well dones and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. I think because it was like what just made like how it's affected, I just want to be able to do it more. I think
Yep.
is one of those things, and I want to be able to prove I can do it more than once. And I think within like the bubble of like athletes and triathletes at like, so kind of like at the Super League level, like everyone's so awesome. And like in Toulouse, like I'm sitting there and I've got like, you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to Christian while you're having breakfast. And
Yeah.
I spoke to Gustav like quite a lot in London, and got on with him quite well. And I was sending him DMs afterwards, asking him like what's the best like on shoes to get and stuff, because I know he's tested them and
Yeah.
got fined for them and all sorts.
Yeah.
So, but like yeah, it's like in that bubble, I think they respect other people doing well. So once you've got like one result, they're like, oh, okay, there's a new guy, or like he could be quite good. I think once you've got a couple of those results, like, so kind of like Dan's done, within that circle, like the big guys start to give you a lot of respect, kind of thing, because they know how hard it is to be at that level.
Yeah.
And that's hopefully the level I will get to in like the next year or so. If I stay consistent and whatnot, hopefully that's where I'll get to. But yeah, I mean, it's changed my perspective to see that, like, you know, I can be up there at the top, and it's given me like I had a lot of like motivation to be there, but it's given me like a bit of belief. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from doing that, and having that as like a thing,
Yeah.
because it doesn't like, it doesn't change overnight. Like even a big result like that, I mean, I got a fair bit of attention for it, and there's a bit of a knock-on effect, but I still had to put in a lot of work and behind the scenes and talk to people to like get into the next spot and blah blah blah. And then I'm like kind of like, you know, where I'm at now, where I'm like, I've got to next year, I've got to go out and I've got to prove myself again, to keep that up and consistently. And because I'm still at the beginning, like I got a couple sponsors and it put me on the map for it, but it's not like, still not enough to fully support me.
You're
As
not
like,
raking in the
it's
dough
not
yet.
like, yeah. So it's not like I'm earning a salary or anything like that. Like, I got some prize money and that enabled me to then continue and do another camp last year.
So you have to pay for those
And
camps.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So I think this is an interesting fact for you, which will be quite cool. I think when I booked I had to book my flight to Montreal. I think I had about £900 in the bank, and the flight cost £850. So when I arrived in Montreal, I had about £50 to like my name. I think Dan paid for coffee on that trip and kind of like the food shop afterwards. But I mean, my parents obviously were like, right, we're not going to let you starve, kind
Yeah.
of thing. We're gonna send you over some money. So they luckily helped out, but like I had about £50 to my name before I got that kind of like third place in Montreal. But then I got that money and it managed to let me pay for the next camp and a race, and then it was gone.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, all right, well, it's a bit of perspective on what you've got to do to, like, you can't just win or do well at one race. You've got to be consistent, because I've had some amazing people help me out. Like, I'm sure you know Eric and Paula
Yeah, I was
from
gonna
That
ask about
Triathlon Life.
them.
So yeah, so like they were an amazing help, and like some of the kit has actually been like instead of spending 500-600 pounds on new bike gear, which I was in desperate need of, like I got sent
All the
through
chamois wearing out.
some amazing custom Castelli, like 2 sets of bike kit, and I now don't have to like buy another pair for whatever, because I mean I can't afford that at the moment.
Yeah.
And then like making connections, like I got like free wetsuit last year. Like I wouldn't have been able to splash out £1,000 on a wetsuit. And I mean, like the list of triathlon costs just
Go on.
racks up.
Yeah, it's expensive.
And you've got to you realize at a professional level, one, you do need to spend that money, because otherwise you can't be doing certain things. You can't go on camps. You can't get to races. And when you do go to races, you've got to be like, right, well, what's going to put me in the best position to do well at this race? Like this, that, and the other. Like the food, nutrition, and
Hotel,
keeping on top of
everything.
nutrition and stuff. Exactly. So having the support of like TTL was amazing last year. And I think they've just done their application. So for like next year for like that development squad. But
are you going to be on it?
Yeah,
again?
I'll obviously, I've still got them on the side. Like I can text them and get questions asked for me and stuff like that. But with regards to like sponsors, I've got like one sponsor that gives me money, but obviously that is incredible, but doesn't go very far in the world of triathlon.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so I've got to really start to think about, when I leave university, how am I going to fund this over the next year or so, at like the level I want to do it at. So that's my little problem at the moment.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. I don't know if anyone's got any connections or stuff.
Yeah, for
for
sure. Well,
sponsors and stuff. We'll
when this episode airs, it'll be, I don't know, maybe we can do an earlier release. I hesitated to do that for a couple of reasons, because I know that you have a GoFundMe going on, and I was going to ask about that, and we'll make sure to link that if it's still going on. This will air in a few months.
No, I think I closed that one.
Oh, did you?
That was closed. Yeah, no, that was closed a while ago. But that was like, I mean, it's an odd like feeling. Like I was like, right, I got convinced to like put it out there because I was like, there's lots of people who wanted to support me, like family, friends, and stuff, and they were like, oh, how can we support you or something?
Yeah.
So I did just end up setting that kind of up and going, right, this is gonna pay for like a couple races and stuff
Yeah.
like last year to help me through. And to be fair, I think I pretty much broke even last year with a fair amount of help from my parents, but I know they can't support me
Yeah, for
forever,
sure.
and I don't
You don't expect them to.
want them to support me forever. You know, I'm at that point where I'm like, right, well, I'm an adult, and I'm like, right, but I'm also trying to like follow
Yeah.
this dream,
Yeah.
and it's yeah. So lots of tough stuff behind the
Yeah.
scenes, but basically learning as you go because no one tells you how to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, but yeah, a massive help has been Dan in that regard
Yeah.
with actually paving the way because he's done everything on his own and found lots of different things.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
have an idea. I want you to let me know if you think it's stupid. So here's the big idea. So I mean, you're growing on Instagram. Your popularity is growing, and if you continue to like go into these races and whatever, you'll only continue to grow. I think, regardless
yeah,
of like how exactly your trajectory goes. What if you set up a Patreon and you had like a monthly subscription, like buy me a coffee type of thing, similar to what TTL does, or some other people do that. I think it's yeah, but you have that set up to where you like have these people that will subscribe to that monthly, and then maybe they get like they can ask you a specific question once a month or twice a month, or like a video, I don't know, like a cameo thing, but like because you have a lot of interesting experiences and stuff as an individual that people want to follow, and I think that you'd be even surprised at how much people would be willing to pay to maybe get at that as you gain more followers. Because if you could convert, let's say you have 10,000 followers, you could convert like 1% of them, and then they're each paying like $2 or $3 a month. It's not nothing. And the more you get over time, is that a bad idea?
yeah. It's a very good idea actually, and I mean we were speaking of different ways and whatnot to do things like that in America. We were, oh gosh, you would absolutely love our if you stuck a microphone on like our Sunday in America. And our Sundays in America consisted of kind of our masseuse coming over, Sol, who is a character
Yeah.
to say the least, and we all absolutely love him. And he is, well, above all, he is an incredible masseuse, or monsieur.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we had there was 3 hours. He'd just stick the bench outside our little rent home,
Yeah.
and we'd each pile on. I think it was like he was there for 4 hours,
Wow.
and yeah, the things that were said, some of which definitely couldn't be uploaded online, but there were some very interesting conversations over the course of a couple months. And yeah, you'd love to stick a microphone. We were thinking about making like the massage hour or
Yeah, there you
something,
go.
but no, exactly, like it's ideas like that. And to be fair, I've thought about it. I just haven't hit like the go button on it yet,
Yeah.
which it's kind of stupid for me to be like, I don't know why I haven't hit the go button
Yeah.
on it. It's
It takes time. It
almost
takes
getting wrapped
effort.
up in your own life.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's exactly like, yeah, it does take effort. And to be fair, I need to put that effort in.
Yeah. Well, hit
But yeah, no, so no, not stupid question.
well, hit me up sometime, man. I'd be happy to help you set something up like that. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who would be willing to help you do that kind of thing. So,
Oh no, that's awesome. Thank you very
yeah.
much.
Well, cool, man. I have to run here in a second, unfortunately, and I'm bummed because I have so many questions again, but I'll probably reach out to you again and try to do an episode 2 if you're ever down with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool, man. Well, Jack, thank you so much for coming on and sharing a lot about your life. It would be fun to follow you into the next year, and all the best. And yeah, there's a lot to go on, and I think the advice that you gave yourself in the beginning of like to stay consistent and kind of push through, I think you're on the right track, because it only takes one viral clip or one really good race to kind of like start to change that tide on the financial front. And no matter what happens, I think people like you for who you are on and off the course. So,
Thank you very much for that, Seth.
yeah, man. Would you be interested in winning some free triathlon training gear from the company Synergy Wetsuits? If so, listen up. We are going to be working with them in partnership for the year of 2024, doing several different giveaways. This is the first of several giveaways, and this is going to be starting on March 8th. The gear up for grabs is going to be a swim cap, swim paddles, and race belt. If you're interested, check out the link in our show notes to the Stupid Questions podcast Instagram page, where you'll find the most recent post on March 8th that has all the details on how to enter that giveaway. Thank you so much to Synergy Wetsuits for sponsoring these giveaways, and we look forward to hopefully picking you. Thank you again so much to Jack for coming on and talking on the podcast and letting me just dig in deeper to who he is as an individual and a person. Really awesome to hear his story, and looking forward to seeing how his life plays out. I think that we'll probably be seeing a lot of him over the years. Humble guy, super nice. If you made it to this point in the podcast, just want to say thank you so much for doing so. If you are watching on YouTube or you're listening on Spotify or wherever, if you don't mind liking, commenting, subscribing, anything on that platform that you can do to help kind of boost the awareness and rate us would be super awesome. Also, if you want to sign up for our newsletter, you can go to stupidquestions.show. We're always doing some type of a giveaway or some exclusive stuff in that, especially as we get this podcast out to more people. There'll be more opportunities. There's just another way to stay connected. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, anywhere you can find something about us. Please do. All right. Well, again, thank you so much to Jack, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.